So a little bit about myself before I get into Tally, who we are, what are we building. My name is Karan. I lead product at Tally right now. How did I start my product management journey? I joined LinkedIn in 2013 and essentially spent 4 years at LinkedIn through the hypergrowth phase and got really lucky to work on a bunch of different products from LinkedIn Premium to LinkedIn Payments, LinkedIn Profile. And essentially over the last 2 years was fortunate to be a part of two major rewrites, which was the LinkedIn mobile app and the LinkedIn desktop app, which accounts, at least on the profile side, is 25% of traffic, and got a chance to learn what it takes to build and roll out products at scale. After that, took a slight detour and went to get my MBA at HBS. While I was doing my MBA, I did an internship between my first and second year at a fintech startup called Deserve. Deserve is essentially providing credit to students, international students specifically, who don't have a credit score. And that was my exposure to fintech as to how can we build products that really help people advance financially and be more present and be more financially healthy. And after that, I faced a question which a lot of students face after graduation is essentially, what do I want to do next? I decided to go to Tally, and essentially the reason for this was I was facing the question, which is, what kind of problems do I want to be solving next? I've helped people find jobs through LinkedIn, and I knew it had to be something that's mission-driven next. And one of my professors actually helped me solve this problem, and he called it the Wall Street Journal test. And essentially, the Wall Street Journal test is that when you pick up your newspaper, what do you end up reading most about? That's a good indication of your passion areas and your interests. And I'll be honest, I don't read the physical newspapers anymore. I think a lot of us don't. But I basically modified that and said, well, if I had to look at my phone, what do I end up spending most of my time on? And this is an actual screenshot of my phone from last year. You can see I have one screen that's just dedicated to fintech apps. But there was something deeper that was going on here that I wanted to understand, like, why do I have all these fintech apps? Why am I playing around with all of these? And essentially went back to, I graduated with some student loans, and that was top of mind for me, which is, how do I get out of student loans? How do I get to a point where I pay off my loans, I start saving for a home and a down payment, I start saving for my future retirement, I start saving for my kids. And all of this was causing so much anxiety and stress that I knew that this was something that drove me and appealed to me. And so that's why I started looking at all these fintech companies and started interviewing with them, talking to them. What brought me to Tally and what stood out about Tally is our mission. And our mission is make people less stressed and better off financially. And I want to emphasize the less stressed part because there are very few fintech companies out there that have the less stressed and emotional aspect in their mission statement, and that too being the first part of the mission statement. So we believe that we not only want to help people with their finances, but how can we help them take care of their anxiety so that they can do what they love most, like spending time with their partners, spending time with their kids. And this is what drives a lot of the product development today at Tally, which I'll get into. So before I get to Tally Save, what I'll do is I'll give you a quick context on what kind of products do we have today, which is the Tally credit card product. And a lot of it is driven by our vision, which is we want to have complete financial automation for the average American. And essentially what this means is our view of the future is that there's going to be this intelligent and ambient service that's just going to be sitting in the background, knowing who you are and what you want to achieve, and taking action for you. So not just doing the thinking, but also doing the working for you. If you think about a lot of the fintech apps, they show you these charts, graphs, and numbers, and that's not our philosophy at Tally. Our philosophy is, if we can automate things for you, we will do it, so that you don't have to do the thinking, and you don't have to do the working. So in order to achieve that vision, we started off with the problem of credit card debt. Just a quick snapshot, it's a $1 trillion problem in the US. About 44% of households have an average of $15,000 in debt. And I want to, again, kind of step away from the numbers and talk about when we do customer calls and when we do customer interviews, when we talk to these households who have so much debt, the number one thing that comes up is this stress and this anxiety is crippling. They cannot do anything else, and that's what drives us at Tally, is how can we actually take that stress and anxiety away from them? We actually did a study 2 to 3 years ago. Our CEO, Jason, has already spoken about this. But you can see on the right-hand side that people who have a good credit score, almost two-thirds of them have medical levels of anxiety. And when I say medical levels of anxiety, this is you having to go to a doctor. And this is what we're trying to solve for. So how did we come up with a solution for this problem? Well, we've built the first automated debt manager, which is the Tally Cards product. And the way it works is you scan your credit cards, we check your credit score, we give you an automated line of credit, and we use that line of credit to start paying off your credit cards in the most optimal way possible. So essentially, it's like putting your credit cards on autopilot. So we're not just doing the thinking for you, which is which credit cards do you have. We also do the acting for you. We actually start paying down your credit card, and we start sweeping your balances away from your credit cards to us, and it's a much lower interest. So instead of paying 20 to 25% to the banks, you're paying somewhere between 10 to 20% to Tally. So you're not just saving money, but you're also feeling less stressed about making your minimum payments. As you all know, late fees are at about $12 billion in the US, and we guarantee no late fees, but we also help you save money. So how does this tie to the vision, and how did we even come up with this problem that we want to build Tally Save? Well, the Tally credit cards product is our core, and it's doing really well. We've helped tens of thousands of customers get out of debt, and in some cases, we've helped them get out of debt 10 to 15 years faster. We're on average saving people $5,000 to $6,000 in interest, and we're going to keep growing that product because we want to solve that problem. But since we do the underwriting for the Tally Cards product, there's a certain credit score at which we actually have a limit in terms of who can get into the product. So our credit score limitation is 660 and above. And what that means essentially is going back to our mission, which is help people be less stressed and better off financially, that limits us because we cannot serve others who are coming to our product, but we cannot give them a line of credit. And that's what drove the initial thought process, which is how can we build a product that can serve millions of more Americans outside of the Tally Cards product? So that's where the journey to Tally Save comes in. My talk is slightly different than the Astra one in the sense that I want to talk about how did we get on that journey to build Tally Save, and how does Tally Save really fit into our vision? And I'll show you a visualization of how that vision comes to life. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but Marty Kagan, who's very popular in the Valley, he has this group called Silicon Valley Product Group, and he talks about this process of discovery and delivery. And it's a very popular framework around product management. Discovery is essentially figure out what do you want to build, and delivery is actually go build it and execute it. So we took this framework for building Tally Save, essentially, and this reminds me of an Einstein quote, which is, Einstein said, if he had 60 minutes to solve a problem, he would spend 55 minutes defining the problem and 5 minutes solving the problem. And that's what this basically means. It's like spend most of your time in discovering and then focus on delivery. And that's something that stuck with me for a long time. So how do I define discovery? This is my definition of discovery, which is it's a 5-step process. Essentially, articulate what your desired outcome is, which is where do you want to go? Discover the customer problems. The third step is once you understand the problems, hypothesize and discover solutions to those problems. And the last 2 steps are validate and find a unique solution that fits to your company's vision and your target customer. So I'm going to talk through these steps and apply them to Tally Save so that you guys can walk away with an actionable and tangible way to even build products in the fintech community that you all are trying to do. So in this case, the first step is define the desired outcome. So in our case, it was what's the desired outcome for our target customer, and what's the desired outcome for Tally? I think being in product design engineering, you got to keep a balance between your customer needs and your business needs because you want to be viable and you want to run the company while serving your customers. So it's important to keep these two in mind. Speaking of target customers, obviously, the first thing it means is you need to define your target customer. So in the case of Tally, our target audience is in the age group of about 23 to 35. tech savvy, which means basically willing to try a new technology solution. And they have enough income to cover their bills. And specifically, what stands out for us in our customer interviews is these people have struggled with their finances in the past, and they made a mistake. And that mistake could have been because of a family emergency, or it could have been something unforeseen, and they did not plan for it, but they're desperately looking for a solution to be in a better financial state. So that's how we define a target customer. And then applying this to the desired outcome, what we said is, our desired outcome is going back to what I said with the mission statement. With the Tally Cards product, we're somewhat limited in how many people we can serve. So how can we help our target customers be less stressed and better off? But how can we make the benefits of automation that we've seen with the Tally Cards product, how can we bring those benefits to millions of more people at scale? So that's where we want to go, and that was a North Star. The next step was discovering the customer problems. So as this defines, the first principle is, it's obvious, start with the customer. It's like you want to start with the customer instead of getting into a room, interview them, empathize with them. And a popular framework that's helpful for me is the jobs to be done framework, which essentially says that people don't buy or use your products. What people do is they are hiring your product to get a job done. And that's the framework that we have here. And essentially, when you see customers on phone calls trying to piece together different solutions manually, that's a great clue for how you can innovate and help them get out of their problems. So in our case, what we noticed across the board with our customers was they were using Google Calendar alerts to remind them of I want to save on this day. I want to pay my credit card on this day. Besides Google Calendar, they had a whiteboard that they were sharing with their partner of this is our savings budget. They were sending emails to themselves. So you can see how much effort's being delivered into this, and we knew that there is a way to automate that and relieve the stress and anxiety that people face. So in our case, this is where the interesting part starts and where the behavioral psychology and the human psychology piece stepped in, which is we heard this from our customers a lot. Two things. I want to save, but I don't know how to get started. And we were like, okay, we can wrap our head around that, and that's a problem statement that we can help solve. The second one was, I should save money, but end up spending instead. And we heard this a lot, and that really stumped us. We said to ourselves, how do we explain the second statement? We don't know how to explain the second statement. And that's where cognitive dissonance, which is a theory which really helped us understand why is that happening. And essentially, cognitive dissonance says that when your belief and your actions are in direct conflict, that's what causes the dissonance. So these GIFs might be able to explain what the dissonance means. But to play it out with the audience, just by a show of hands, how many of you said to yourself today that you will go to the gym? Okay, keep your hands up. How many of you actually went to the gym? All right, so that's what I mean, which is your belief is that I want to be healthy, I need to go to the gym. But your action is in direct conflict with that, which is I did not go to the gym. And why is that? Maybe I got lazy, maybe it's difficult, it's boring. And we applied the same analogy to saving and money. And essentially what we said was, what we're hearing from our customers is, I should save money. But what's happening is they end up spending the money instead on a product or service which they regret later on. And there's a tension in the middle which we were trying to bridge from a product standpoint, which is, the tension is saving money is difficult or hard and requires sacrifice. And we heard this again in a lot of customer interviews. So we went back to the customers and we validated it. And what they said is, essentially to save money, I need to skip a happy hour with my colleagues. Essentially to skip money, I need to make lunch at home instead of having lunch outside. And we heard this all the time, which is saving money requires sacrifice, right? But we didn't stop there. We actually interviewed more customers, and we found out that saving came up in so many interviews that it was a universal need for all of our customers. And almost everyone had a specific goal. I don't know how many of you can see the screenshot video on the right side, but it's actually 3 physical jars in which someone's trying to save money. One of them is for a trip to China. One of them is to buy tires for his car. And then one of them is to buy gifts for Christmas for his kids. But essentially what we're trying to say here is like someone's trying really hard, and every time that person saves money, they're trying to put it in the jar so that it's out of sight, out of mind. But everyone had a goal. And what we learned is as soon as someone saw putting $5 in a jar, they kept going. And essentially what that gave us the insight was the feeling of progress comes from just getting started. Like seeing progress is really rewarding to people. So we took those insights and basically came up with a problem statement, which is, how might we help our target customers get started with saving money? That's number one. How might we reduce that cognitive tension or dissonance that I just spoke about, which is saving money requires sacrifice, and it's actually really difficult. So we used a popular framework, nothing new here, but the design sprint, which is popularized by Google, which essentially says take a problem on day one, and then by day 5, you actually have a prototype and you've tested it with real customers. And that's exactly what we did. We got into a room only after we understood the problem and I had spoken to customers. Got into a room, had a bunch of ideas, hypothesized them, and drew some sketches on paper. But a pro tip that I'll share here, which helped us a lot, was we actually took that a step further and only did black and white wireframes. Is like, how can we actually just solve this problem with no color? Let's not focus on the pixels. Let's just try to solve the problem that we highlighted. And this is something that my friend calls comic book storylining, is like make a comic book with just black and white images and try to solve the problem. So we took this and moved on from there and said, okay, we have all these different sketches. We have all these different products. It's time to pick a unique solution. And these 4 questions helped us to identify that unique solution, which is, again, going back to the question, are we solving a problem that the customer really cares about? That should always be your guiding North Star. Are we driving towards the desired outcome that we initially defined? Do our customers really want this solution? Will they even use it? And then can we feasibly implement it and do it in an economically viable way? So with that, we landed on Tallys Save as a product, as the first app that rewards you for setting aside money. And the reason for the rewarding part was it goes back to that cognitive dissonance, which is saving money is hard and requires sacrifice. So we said to ourselves, how can we make saving money a rewarding process, but also bring automation so it's effortless and it doesn't seem difficult? And not just that, Tallys Save is completely free. So that's our new product that we're launching in our quest of achieving full financial automation. What that looks like is, so those black and white wireframes that you saw definitely advanced and got to this stage where we had a better understanding of what we're trying to do. It's essentially, we save the money automatically for you. We give you rewards as you're saving money, so essentially incentivizing good behavior. And then you achieve your goals. So we're launching with a minimum desirable product, which essentially is, we know we want to get into the different levels of automation that Gil spoke about, but we want to start with a level 2 or level 3, which is you can automatically set aside as little as $5 a week. You can take that amount higher if you want, but it's a weekly savings app. As you save money, we give you rewards for that behavior, and you can use those points to redeem against the rewards marketplace that we're building. But again, with the rewards marketplace, we didn't want to go crazy. We do have a strategy which is exciting, but we wanted to start really simple. And we said, as you collect points, we will allow you to redeem those points for gift cards. But even with the gift cards, we didn't just take a blanket approach. We used the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and said those gift cards are essentially for things like grocery, commute, like things you actually spend your money on. So we're going to help you save money on those things too. Right now, we're launching with a couple of goals. So save for an emergency fund and save for a rainy day. And then the other one, which is really important, is chipping away at credit card debt. So this takes advantage of the automation pipelines that we've built with the Tally Cards product. So the people who we cannot give a line of credit to through the Tally Cards product, they can use this product by setting aside a little money and paying that money, extra money, towards their credit card and getting out of debt faster. We did some math and modeling on this. Even paying $5 to $10 extra on your minimum payment every month can get you out of debt 2x faster. And people don't believe that, but when we actually showed them that, they were in shock. But it's a solution that not only helps people with debt, but will also help people save money for an emergency fund. Initial feedback has been pretty positive, but we're still iterating on the product. Where are we today with this product? So the product has a wait list. We essentially have about 60,000 plus people on the wait list and growing. This is a slightly old screenshot. But we're in the beta testing phase, and we have people actually testing the product, and we're testing our automated pipelines. I do want to talk about the delivery piece very briefly. I don't have detailed slides for it. But essentially, the Tally Cards product took us 3 years to build. And the reason for that is automation is really hard, especially for that last 20%, and making sure we pay your credit cards on time. We're taking the fiduciary responsibility to pay your credit cards. So that took us 3 years to build. And we knew with this product, we wanted to take a shorter path. We set the guardrail and the constraint that we want to get to market within 1 year, actually within a few months. And so for that, with the Tally Cards product, we built the bank core from the ledger up inside Tally. With the Tally Save product, we actually took a hybrid approach of build and partner. So the partnership is with another company that provides us with the FPO account and provides us with the ledger services. And then we've also done a partnership for the MVP for rewards, which is a gift cards marketplace. And then everything else is built internally, which is essentially a microservices architecture. So the rewards engine and everything else you want to call it is built internally at Tally. And that helped us to get to market within 4 to 5 months, which was really important. But that testing of the automation is what takes most of the time. So I'm happy to talk about the execution and implementation later on if people have questions. I want to end on how does Tally Save, Tally Cards really fit into the vision for Tally? So it goes back to how I started my presentation, which is Tally believes that the future is where you have an intelligent and ambient service just working in the background doing the work for you. So in this case, what we're trying to say is, what can Tally do for you? We know that, hey, Karan, you have credit card debt. You have student loans. You want to buy a house, and you want to save for retirement. You have these 4 different things you want to do. Well, because you're paying so much interest on your credit cards, let's first get you out of credit card debt. So Tally automatically works on that, gets you out of credit card debt. After you're done with that, we can help you with your student loans and to save. So that's where Tally Save comes into the picture. And then after that, we'll work on your retirement. But essentially, what's coming up for us in the next 12 months is we're going to keep testing Tally Save, try to unify the experience for Tally Save and Tally Cards. Tally Cards is more of a monolithic application. Tally Save is based on microservices, so it helps us to iterate quickly, but we do want to unify that experience in the long term. And that being said, we firmly believe in the financial jobs to be done framework, if you want to call it. So we're not going to stop at this. We're going to work on what's coming up next, which is how can we help people with mortgages? How can we help people improve their credit score? So if you're interested, come talk to me after this. We also have our team back there who we're hiring across the board, so PMs, engineers, designers. Come talk to us. We have an exciting roadmap coming up, and we're just getting started.